What's up guys, welcome back. This is anime fiction. You'll be watching What If Naruto Got Pika Pika no Mi and Became the Yellow Flash End. Now let's begin. Naruto's point of view. I woke up in the morning feeling rejuvenated. Another day, another set of challenges to tackle. Waking up next to Eri is undoubtedly the best part of my day. I don't anticipate any further significant developments at this point. The incident involving the villain attack is still vividly remembered by the public. I believe Nizu is scheduled to hold a press conference today in order to address the concerns of the concerned public. In addition, it is important to find a way to provide support to the families of the students who tragically lost their lives. I don't envision that going smoothly. It's somewhat difficult to fathom why individuals would criticize UA's system, given that no location in the world could have effectively defended against such an attack. Kurogiri possesses an incredibly potent warp quirk, which played a significant role in their abilities. Additionally, the jammer quirk proved to be a crucial element in their overall effectiveness. The very same one that successfully dismantled the defenses of Tartaros. I think that, in both situations, it has been improved by a unique characteristic. This suggests that the jammer quirk alone may not be very effective. However, it remains bothersome. My unavailability earlier was solely because of its presence. If I had been aware of what was happening at UA, I would have taken care of Gigantomachia more efficiently. However, there is no point in lamenting over it at this moment. I'm also interested in the future direction of All for One. He should have significantly reduced power compared to the series. Especially since I removed his legs. One could argue that the absence of his legs is inconsequential, given his ability to fly. However, it can be challenging to effectively generate power in your punches without the necessary tools. Additionally, I inadvertently caused damage to his lung. However, that is irrelevant. He has endured more challenging situations. However, mental scars can often have a more profound impact than physical injuries. He always carried himself with a sense of confidence and self-assurance. Always considering himself superior to those around him. Despite facing defeat at the hands of All Might. There was no indication that his arrogance had diminished in any manner. However, the constant exposure to such degrading experiences may have overwhelmed him. I expected him to possess greater strength, particularly considering his extensive life experience. It appears that in the face of death, he succumbed to fear and terror, causing him to withdraw and shut down emotionally. Truly, unattractive. However, I primarily feel frustrated with myself above all else. I'm having trouble grasping the purpose of my previous endeavors. It appears that possessing authority holds little significance when one lacks maturity. Indeed. Even if my actions could be seen as justified, given the circumstances. Those were immature outbursts that resulted in the loss of numerous lives. Mistakes I cannot afford to make again. Even if I were responsible for eliminating All for One on that particular day. What impact would that have on his destiny? He is currently detained and held in the deepest part of Tartaros, awaiting his own execution as mandated by the law. It doesn't matter if I didn't personally complete the task. Who do I believe I am? To assert control and take decisive action in challenging circumstances. Viewing everyone who stood before me with a sense of superiority. Disregarding everyone else that I saw as unnecessary to society. What a display of self-centeredness and conceit. Very similar to the one I was working with. How much did I descend? Unbeknownst to me, I've gradually been adopting the behavior of that individual on a daily basis. The only distinction is that I genuinely have individuals I care about beyond my own self. If I didn't, we would be identical. They were the individuals who ultimately put an end to my progress. I aim to develop my skills and abilities, seeking long-lasting strength rather than fleeting power. I require the strength to maintain composure in front of my loved ones once more. For Eri. And for Rumi, I believe she wouldn't appreciate being disturbed by an individual who lacks self-sufficiency. With a renewed sense of purpose. I woke up feeling refreshed and prepared to address the challenges I had caused. First item on the agenda. Discussing matters with Eri. Excluding her from any of this was simply another self-centered desire of mine. Given her desire to assist, she would be particularly inclined to offer her expertise. However, I cannot continue down that path. I will provide her with all the necessary information. Allow her to make her own decision. Despite her youth, she possesses the necessary maturity to make decisions independently. Eri certainly noticed my prompt awakening. Primarily because she was holding onto me tightly, much like a cat. "Good morning, little Eri," I greeted with a warm smile. "Father. May I inquire about the whereabouts of Mother?" That was the initial statement she made. She appeared quite worried. I let out a deep breath. I was hoping to ease into the matter. However, the absence of Rumi is quite unsettling for the both of us. It's clear that this would be her initial response. I embraced her firmly. The pressure of her horn against me didn't faze me at all. "Eri. Rumi has been injured. She is currently resting." I glanced downward. I locked eyes with her. Their condition indicated some moisture. She was already becoming emotional. "Rest assured. We will pay her a visit later today. I will contact your homeroom teacher to inform her of your absence for today," I gently said as I affectionately patted her head. She nodded in disagreement. "I'll go." She emphasized the significance of education, stating that one should strive to avoid a lifestyle of dependency. She brushed away her tears and managed a small smile. I was pleasantly surprised by her professional response. Fortunately, I refrained from disclosing the specific nature of the injuries to her. She could have responded in a different manner. "Well, it's not as if we haven't experienced injuries in the past. I'll disregard Rumi's accusation of me being a freeloader for the time being. I will inform her about the injured teachers and students at a later occasion. I still have a lot of tasks remaining, and it's likely that she will discover them during her visit to the hospital. I have a number of tasks remaining for today. However, I need to make breakfast." Eri enjoys indulging in sweets, making pancakes the perfect option for her. Rumi would likely strongly advise against allowing Eri to consume excessive amounts of sweets. However, since Rumi is currently absent, I have the freedom to make my own choices. Definitely won't have any negative consequences when I completed making them. She was already dressed in her uniform. "Oh. Pancakes." She expressed her joy with enthusiasm, waving her arms in the air. "Please keep this information confidential. Is that understood?" I asked in a respectful manner. She simply nodded, no longer giving me her full attention. Which just made me let out a sigh. Once we had both finished our meals, I escorted Eri to her school, embraced her for a final farewell, and expressed my hopes for her to have a pleasant day. Arriving at UA was as efficient as always. Nizu had already begun preparing the venue for the press conference. Just a small podium in the courtyard, nothing too extravagant. The teachers were probably taking a break at the moment, but there were other staff members available to assist him with the stage. I also began assisting upon my arrival. Only after a brief discussion. "Naruto. It's a pleasure to see you here. Always maintaining a positive demeanor when interacting with others, no matter how challenging the circumstances may be. It's exactly what I would expect from someone of his caliber. However, as someone who is familiar with him, his appearance is not well maintained, and there are still noticeable dark circles around his eyes. It seems evident that he is feeling overwhelmed by various responsibilities, possibly due to a heavy workload. Hello. It appears that you require assistance. Decided to take advantage of my current availability and make the most of it," I said with a relaxed smile on my face. However, I still have another request to make of him. "Hey, Nizu. Do you still have the contact information for that psychologist you mentioned?" Nizu briefly glanced in my direction. "Certainly, I can help you with that. Here is what you requested." He gave me a business card with the contact information. I'm not even questioning what caused me to alter my perspective on a psychiatrist. He has a keen understanding of how recent events have impacted me mentally. He is highly intelligent, surpassing all other rats. Although I have some reservations about it. It's more effective to actively address and resolve my issues rather than disregarding them and allowing them to worsen over time. After that, I proceeded to assist wherever possible. The press conference was quite frustrating. I was also present on the stage, observing the reporters as they made their utmost effort to elicit a response from Nizu. There were also a few individuals who displayed sincere concern for the staff and students impacted by the attack. However, the majority of the questions followed a similar pattern. Will UA assume responsibility for the individuals who tragically lost their lives in yesterday's incident? I ended up answering the question, as Nizu was already getting tired. I think the individuals accountable were the antagonists in this situation. Next question. It was concise, sardonic, and derisive, but it appeared to satisfy the majority of them. The individual who posed the question appeared to have a genuine interest in delving deeper into the subject, but unfortunately, their voice was overshadowed by the clamor of others. Nizu seemed pleased that I was the one to answer that. Although my response may not have been ideal, my reputation had grown to the point where I could easily dismiss most criticism. I acquired a loyal following in the end. There were also individuals discussing UA's defense system. How were the intruders able to breach the school premises on 2 separate occasions within a span of just 3 months? Were the defenses not reinforced after the initial incident? This wasn't as challenging, but it was still a complex one. Fortunately, Nizu possesses excellent problem-solving skills. Despite the systems being revamped, there was a notable shift in the method of attack this time. The jammer quirk they utilized had a significant impact on the surrounding environment, similar to the one witnessed in Tardaro's. He didn't explicitly state that it was identical, but it was strongly suggested. The remaining questions were more manageable. Until we encountered All Might. What is the current status of the symbol of peace? Once again, not intentional. It's quite challenging to provide a response. Nizu appeared hesitant to respond, so I decided to take the podium once more. He displayed great courage in battle. He effectively restrained the antagonist until I arrived. He is currently taking a break. I couldn't say that he was defeated, as it would be hard for anyone to believe. However, it is not incorrect to state that he is taking a break. He is still asleep. The surgery was completed sometime last night. It's incredible that he made it through. The mobilization of healing quirks that the government executed was truly remarkable. They cleverly disguised it as a means of addressing the surplus of wounded villains. However, the majority of them inadvertently contributed to All Might's recovery. Only a select few were privy to the true identity of the symbol. Ultimately, the importance of safeguarding someone's confidentiality becomes insignificant when their very life is at risk. Aizawa has also managed to turn things around. He is currently in a coma. I sincerely hope he doesn't wake up just yet, as the discomfort would be quite overwhelming, and pain relief medication can have negative effects. Although he may have overcome his financial struggles, his body is still plagued by healing wounds and burns. The significant increase in healing quirks at the Musutofo Hospital has only provided temporary stability for him. Before I even noticed it. It was time to go and pick Eri up from school. I said my goodbyes to Nizu and made my way there at my own leisure. I had to wait for 30 minutes at the gate. However, it didn't bother me. It provided me with an opportunity to reflect on the upcoming visit to the hospital. Being interrupted by a pleasant voice while lost in thought is always a welcome interruption. Father. It's always adorable to see her leave her friends behind and happily skip towards me. I skillfully lifted her, gracefully twirled her, and gently positioned her on my right shoulder, supporting her with my right hand. "Hey Eri, how was school today?" I said cheerfully. She nodded with enthusiasm and shared the valuable insights she gained from it. I patiently waited for her to finish speaking before I responded. "So, are you prepared to pay a visit to Mom?" I maintained a poised and composed demeanor, concealing any traces of apprehension or doubt that may have been present within me. She nodded briskly. She always maintains a professional demeanor, with a smile that never fades from her face. I skillfully enveloped both of us in a radiant glow and gracefully soared into the air. Rumi's perspective. Waking up in a hospital bed can be quite unsettling. However, in general, quite familiar for a hero. However, as I attempted to shift my position, I noticed a complete lack of sensation in my lower body. It left me feeling uneasy as I struggled to comprehend the situation. The most recent memory I have is attempting to thwart a band of peculiar wrongdoers as they launched an assault on a hospital. The situation didn't go as expected, as they were able to overpower me and one of them placed their hand on my head. It felt like a piece of me was being forcibly removed. Then I fainted. It could have been due to the surprise or the discomfort. Currently, I find myself confined to a hospital bed. Based on the situation, it seems that either I was not captured or I have been rescued. I never anticipated being outperformed like that by anyone other than Naruto. I suppose I should exercise more caution in the future, if there is a future opportunity. I am experiencing a loss of sensation in my ears and an unexplained sense of weakness. Has my quirk been taken? Naruto did mention a villain or possibly multiple villains who possessed that ability, but I didn't pay much attention to it at the time. I should have heeded his advice. What might his reaction be if he were to witness me in such a condition? Would he consider me to be lacking? Most likely not, however. I can't help but feel concerned about that. Just as I was on the verge of tears, I noticed the door to my room being opened. And the individuals I held dear entered my hospital room. A very tall and slender gentleman and the most endearing and charming child to ever bless my life. Upon entering the room, my immediate thought was, she's awake. I had sincerely hoped she would be awake, but it seemed highly improbable. It appears I didn't fully appreciate her level of strength. I chose to disregard the slight moisture in her eyes. I have a strong aversion to witnessing her in this state. It gives me an odd sensation. Mom. How was your sleep last night? We sincerely missed you. Eri hurriedly approached Rumi. She jumped on the bed with confidence and embraced Rumi tightly, showing no hesitation. I felt compelled to step in, as it seems she may not be fully informed about the situation. It's important to ensure that she doesn't feel like she has been in a coma for an extended period of time. It has been approximately 1 day. However, it truly seemed like an extended period of time. It was strange not having you remind me to sleep, I said with a confident smile. I won't come in here and pretend to be overly dramatic. She doesn't require that at the moment. Considering the recent loss of her legs, it's important to ensure that her spirit remains intact. However, she may be able to bounce back by the end of the day. She gave me a brief glance. Her smile appeared somewhat forced. What occurred? I experienced an unusual sensation in my heart upon seeing it. It was a difficult experience. Rumi has always displayed resilience. I've witnessed her in a state of illness in the past, and I assumed she would not feel uneasy about revealing her vulnerability to me. I suppose I shouldn't anticipate her to do so when I consistently appear as the epitome of unwavering resilience. I dislike this sensation, witnessing her sense of inferiority in my presence. I believe she understands the discomfort this situation brings me, as she gazes at me and offers a faint, sincere smile. Hey, race a suggestion. The situation she is facing remains quite significant. Do you recall the antagonist who had the ability to take away quirks? It seems that he returned with a vengeful purpose. I believe you were not included in his plan, however. You were a valuable addition, I believe. I carefully simplified the entire situation, making sure to avoid any mention of them using her as a hostage. However, my attempt appeared to be less than satisfactory. So I was a hostage, huh? She said, gazing down at the blanket that covered her legs. Eri embraced her tightly, making up for the entire night they had been apart. The young child likely sensed the tense ambience. I did mention that she has a keen sense of perception. However, she opted to remain quiet and allowed us to engage in conversation for a period of time. Indeed. However, the situation would have remained the same, regardless of whether he managed to capture you or not. Rumi glanced up at me, with a hint of confusion in their eyes. Despite her lack of awareness, the true focus of the entire situation remained UA and Hero Society. So I began to explain, ensuring that Eri was fully informed of the situation. She wanted a complete understanding of the situation before making a decision on whether or not to offer assistance. I'm afraid I won't be able to ask her after all. I am not yet strong enough for that. It would bring me a sense of peace if she were to do this willingly. Rumi's responses appeared to be quite extreme. She appeared extremely angry at the way the villains executed this attack. However, her anger intensified when she realized that they had manipulated her in order to reach me. I sincerely hope she doesn't begin to feel like a burden or entertain any other unhelpful thoughts. I noticed one of her hands tightly gripping the sheets of her hospital bed. Meanwhile, the other embraced Eri tightly. I apologize. She was holding herself responsible. Something I was dreading to hear or see ever in my life. I fulfilled my responsibilities as a reliable partner. I approached her and gently placed my hand over hers. It appeared to be quite effective, providing her with comfort was not the primary objective. It was important to convey to her that I still valued our relationship. Eri, however. She was trembling, overwhelmed with sadness. However, by the conclusion of it, her eyes had a noticeable sparkle. She gazed up at Rumi, her horn extending a few inches, as a warm radiance surrounded her and Rumi's entire beings. I hesitated, avoiding getting caught up in Eri's quirk. After the light faded, Rumi appeared before me, just as she had when she departed from our home. Her ears were also accounted for. As I observed, a peculiar feeling of delight washed over me. I was pleased with the result, however. Eri's quirk intensifies in response to her emotions. That's the one aspect that caused me to have doubts. It's understandable that she may not have a complete understanding of how her quirk functions. It is not widely understood how it operates. However, I noticed Eri glancing in my direction. Her horn had noticeably grown since the last time I saw her. "Father, please escort me to the rest of the group." I simply observed her. It was quite surprising. I didn't anticipate her decision to be made so swiftly. I must admit, Eri has proven to be much stronger than I initially anticipated. Rumi enthusiastically embraced Eri, holding her tightly in a warm hug. I also joined in, effortlessly embracing both of them with just one arm. I gently began stroking Rumi's ears after they accidentally made contact with my face. Something she truly appreciated. I sensed her relying on me. A single day without her presence filled me with a sense of unease. I suppose I felt a greater sense of concern regarding her situation, but her absence only worsened the problems. I have not yet responded to Eri. However, her decision has already been finalized. After embracing Rumi for a little longer, I will accompany Eri to the remaining wards where she can provide healing to the students and teachers who were impacted by the attack. Rumi's eyes welled up, but these tears were not born of sorrow. It appears that she will be inclined to increase her training efforts moving forward. I am committed to providing her with assistance throughout her journey. It's important for her to be ready for any potential threats, even if they may never be as significant as All for One. In my opinion, there isn't much to prepare for. Conflict is not a concern for me. However, I have important tasks that require my attention. I always playfully remarked that Rumi had a tendency to be possessive. However, I am far inferior to her. Going from initially hesitating to allow Eri to assist in this critical situation, to my regrettable outburst that has resulted in the loss of thousands of lives and continues to climb. It's another issue that requires my attention. For now, I will simply savor this embrace. A touch of warmth before departing and allowing Eri to pursue her long-held aspirations. Being a professional, that is. After a few minutes of offering support and witnessing Rumi's recovery, I guided Eri towards the other hospital rooms. Rumi was unable to join us as she had an appointment with a doctor to discuss some tests and her discharge plans. She appeared very enthusiastic about leaving the hospital. However, it is likely that they will retain her services for a while longer. The potential impacts of Eri's quirk on the human body remain uncertain. Regarding the method by which her quirk was restored, Eri possesses a quirk with the remarkable ability to reverse even genetic traits. Even if the quirk was removed against her will, there is no reason why her genetics couldn't be reverted to a previous state where she possessed the quirk. Eri's quirk is quite unusual, to say the least. Similar to mine, her quirk doesn't fit neatly into any established category. My product is versatile and can be used in a variety of ways, making it difficult to categorize. However, Eri's quirk exhibits a distinct manifestation. It is also fueled by her emotions. Overall, I would describe it as a mutation, but also as something that emits. Difficult to articulate. I led Eri through the rooms, one by one, restoring the energy and vitality of every injured student. By now, several doctors were running in our vicinity. As Eri completed the process of examining patients, she carefully assessed their conditions. In a typical situation, it would not be permissible for a child to utilize their quirk within a medical facility. However, I can leverage my expertise to make a few exceptions possible. Being a hero comes with numerous advantages, no doubt. Limitations I faced as an independent crime fighter. Similar to encountering disputes. Yeah, heroes can be quite dull. It's reassuring to know that my reputation and expertise inspire confidence in others. Gradually, every student in this hospital was restored to health. Returned to their optimal states, to be more precise. The doctors appeared to be somewhat relieved. It seems they were unable to simply accept my statement. I wasn't quite a professional after all. However, the individuals who had been healed appeared to be in good health and, upon closer inspection, were completely fine. My Netta was fully healed. Although I wasn't initially inclined to assist him, I suppose I'll provide him with an opportunity. Based on my understanding, he made no attempt to escape on that particular day. Despite his nervous demeanor throughout. Despite his flaws, he is not one to back down. Kirishima was also grateful. Although his injuries were not severe, he was still covered in bruises. Additionally, he suffered from a fractured arm. Eri had to heal him twice, primarily because I didn't appreciate his comment about Eri's appearance. A few well-executed actions helped rectify his error. Monoma displayed a greater sense of modesty than usual. I suppose he only displays arrogance towards his competitors. However, he was also pleased to be walking once more. His leg muscles were significantly impacted by the consistent use of Recipro Burst. Now he had returned to his usual state. When we arrived at the first teacher that Eri needed to heal, we had already spent an hour walking around and attending to patients. The individual in the room remained unconscious. It was Cementas, someone well known to both me and Eri. I could tell that she appeared even more focused after encountering him. She quickly healed him. His limbs appeared to reappear effortlessly. He failed to awaken, but at least I could now perceive the sound of his snoring. As the doctors carefully removed the breathing equipment from his mouth. It seems that his lungs have suffered significant damage. The following rooms had a similar layout. Midnight didn't sustain as much damage as Cementas. She had been shot once or twice. She was alert when we entered the room. She appeared to be pleased that we paid her a visit. She became even more delighted when Eri healed her. Eri's head was swiftly crushed between two massive peaks. I didn't contribute significantly, but fortunately, Midnight released her before she lost consciousness due to oxygen deprivation. I nearly regretted restoring Present Mike's vocal cords. Listening to his singing was never enjoyable, but Eri seemed to find pleasure in it, so I also put on a facade of not disliking it. Vlad was fully alert. He expressed his sincere gratitude to little Eri. He is a courteous individual, no doubt about it. 13 emerged unscathed from the incident. However, she required a significant amount of rest following the recent events. And then there was Aizawa. Still in a coma, connected to a multitude of machines. I observed Eri for a moment. I sensed her small hand gripping onto my finger. Her eyes appeared slightly moist. I hadn't realized the strong bond she formed with Eraser. Evidently, he has provided her with significant support. She approached him with a sense of caution, gently reaching out to make contact. The doctors also prepared to disconnect all of the cords from the machines connected to him. The healing was immediate, once more. However, Aizawa did wake up. As the doctors were disconnecting him from every piece of equipment. He glanced in my direction. Then he swiftly raised his arm to cover his injured eye. Then he glanced downward and noticed Eri. He couldn't help but smile as he noticed the sparkle in her eyes. "Thank you, young one." His voice had a rough quality to it. Eri enthusiastically nodded and gave her teacher a warm hug. It was adorable. Aizawa appeared to share the same opinion. I've never seen him appear so content. It's great to see you awake and full of energy, Eraser. It has been a tiring day since you made the choice to rest. I signaled for his attention to be directed towards me. His expression became more focused. What happened to the rest? He asked with a professional demeanor. Eri left his presence and returned to my side. It's likely that he lost consciousness at some point during the ordeal. Unfortunately, I was unable to witness the outcome for all individuals present. The majority of them are satisfactory. Eri has successfully provided healing to nearly everyone by now. Toshinori is the sole remaining individual. They mentioned that it's doubtful he will regain consciousness. He glanced downward slightly. And let out a deep breath. His expression turned slightly displeased. What about the students who attempted to escape? he mentioned, likely alluding to the ones that departed from the center of their group. Their deaths were officially confirmed once the incident had concluded. I refrained from explicitly stating anything, as Eri is still present in the room. I simply made eye contact with him and shook my head. He appeared to understand the message. His expression grew more serious as he narrowed his eyes slightly. I glanced downward at Eri. She appeared to be unsure. I believe Mr. Aizawa could benefit from some well-deserved rest. Eri, we should assist Mr. Toshinori. She simply nodded without delving deeper into the matter. I waved Eraser farewell. Before leaving, I just stated. By the way, Nizu has already held a press conference. Nobody is publicly criticizing the instructors. He only nodded a little. Probably taking note of my wording. After all, some individuals still blame instructors for some of the fatalities. I locked the door behind me and started walking towards the final one. I could immediately feel Toshi's emotions. He appeared more like a skeleton than normal. He appeared to be on the verge of death. Doctors were always by his side. Prior to this tragedy, his body had already been permanently wounded. This was the final nail in the coffin. However, Eri will be able to heal him. I am confident she is powerful after all. She trembled slightly when she saw his state. She approached him carefully. The physicians who were not told of All Might's identity were asked to leave the room. It was unclear how One for All would respond to Rewind. They did not, however, want to risk revealing All Might's secret identity any further. As Eri placed her palm on Toshi's leg, I could feel his wounds gradually fade. His arm also resurfaced, reconstructed from a yellow glow that surrounded his entire body. I breathed a sigh of relief as he returned to his original state. I had no idea I'd ever be able to call that condition healthy. But Eri did not stop there. She continuing, and all indications of aging faded from Toshi's face. His frail physique began to bulk up significantly. His body appeared to be full of strength. Eri seemed to have rewinded him several times. I could saw his eyelids flicker open. I'm interested whether he still has One for All. All Might gently rose to sit on his bed. It appears he needs to adjust to his new situation. He clenched his fists slightly and appeared tired. However, as he realized what was going on, he relaxed. He looked about in confusion. I doubt he recalls much of what happened after I arrived. But I believe he can predict what happened yesterday just because he is still alive. Eri screamed a little. It's All Might. I suppose every youngster in this country knows who he is. And, given Eri's desire to be a hero, she is definitely familiar with Japan's oldest symbol. She hopped about a little, eventually mounting me and straddling my neck. He eventually saw me and Eri. A glint of awareness flashed in the corner of his eye. He isn't an idiot, he is aware of Eri's eccentricity and can guess what just transpired. What happened? He persisted in asking, most likely hoping to hear it from someone else. Eri healed you a little too much, you ended up back in your prime, and a few years later, I stated in a level tone. I didn't even get my last phrase in before he reacted. Ha 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 ha, he leaped out of bed, flexing his muscles in a strongman position. He seemed to settle down after hearing me, and excitement set in. I did not expect him to accept the situation so soon. I am here. I used to mock his customary slogan. This time, however, things are different. All Might seemed a lot more enthusiastic about it. To the point that he exuded joy and drive. He simply stood there, admiring his own muscles. I suppose Eri is also in awe. Does she like bulky heroes? I can build light muscles and make myself larger if necessary. The physicians were staring at the spectacle in astonishment. I assume they didn't anticipate previous wounds to heal in the same way. I doubt they will simply let him go after this. Extensive testing will be performed on him, just to make sure that any hazard from previous or current injuries is eliminated. After a few minutes of stillness and flexing, he appeared to shake off his delight and exhilaration. He stared at me. Young Naruto, what happened after you carried me away? Are the students okay? He spoke in a serious tone. I treated the injured and dealt with the criminals as soon as I arrived. Some of the villains are being interrogated as we speak. I told the truth, ignoring the fact that I tormented All for One quite a bit. After all, not stating something does not constitute a lie. After hearing my statement, he nodded slightly but continued to watch on. I genuinely dislike delivering bad news. I wish I didn't have to explain students' deaths to those who were safeguarding them. The ones that ran in the beginning are all right. The ones who returned and attempted to flee again are not. I avoided explaining that they perished because Eri had climbed on top of me. He didn't appear to have an appropriate response. But he nevertheless added, "It seems we've failed them." What? All Might is blaming himself for no apparent reason. No way. This is not your fault. They all opted to return and assist the teachers freely. That was not precisely a scenario in which you could care for them. I explained, hoping to persuade him of my point of view. But his guilt will stay. There's no stopping it. I looked at the physicians, and they appeared to get the signal and left the room for a while. On another note, is One for All still within you? This was a genuine interest on my side. I believe the physicians were unaware of All Might's peculiarity and actual nature. Toshinori's POV. After being vanquished by All for One, I could only watch in horror as the criminals harmed my colleagues and pupils. I could not do anything. All for One may have ended my life at any time. But he delayed my execution on purpose, so that I might witness the others battle and suffer against his army of minions. Just when my arch-nemesis was ready to kill me off, Naruto appeared. His arrival is the last thing I recall. I was hurt and had worries about my own survival. However, I had no intention of passing away without first imparting my knowledge to my student and allowing him to carry on my legacy. I made an effort to maintain my awareness. However, the moment I laid down on the hospital bed, I lost consciousness. Upon awakening, I couldn't help but sense a familiar sense of vigor coursing through my being. Something that, at some point, felt effortless. The atmosphere was comforting and inviting, leaving me feeling rejuvenated and inspired. I explored the area for a while. I immediately spotted a gentleman who appeared to be of similar height, with a slender yet fit build. It was the familiar and youthful Naruto. The child climbing on top of him was his own adopted daughter. How did he successfully care for a child before many of his adult colleagues, myself included? I believe I can piece together what has occurred. Eri, a young individual, possessed a unique ability to restore something to its previous state. She was the one who helped me recover, likely restoring me to my best state in the process. I double-checked with Naruto, just to be certain. Evidently, he was equally taken aback, just like me. However, his response solidified the concept. I firmly pressed my fingers into my own hand, feeling the sting of pain, to confirm that this was indeed reality. Once I grasped what had happened, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. I couldn't resist uttering my signature phrase. I am available. Since the injury, I have struggled to express myself without feeling inadequate. Was I truly the epitome of peace that they admired so passionately? Was I truly capable of safeguarding the individuals who placed their trust in me? Would people perceive me as a symbol of peace if they were aware of the truth? Those were all inquiries that gnawed at my mind. They made me feel inadequate. A shadow of the person I used to be, a pitiful representation of a champion. However, after all this time, I can now say it with confidence. Just as I did during my prime. I struggled to hold back my tears as I examined my body. However, I gradually regained my composure. I was able to complete it in a short amount of time. However, I wanted to ensure the well-being of everyone else as well. It is important for a hero to always prioritize the needs of others. I felt a sense of guilt after hearing Naruto's response. He was correct, the circumstances prevented me from assisting them. However, that is merely a justification. As the symbol of peace, it was my responsibility to ensure their safety no matter the circumstances. My downfall ultimately led to their demise. However, I cannot move forward if I constantly dwell on the past and feel sorry for myself. I would like to explore what lies ahead. Strive to save as many lives as possible to compensate for past shortcomings. I feel rejuvenated and full of energy. I will dedicate my time to being a hero. While I was considering my future, Naruto dismissed the doctors from the room. Do you still possess the power of One for All? The next question that young Naruto decided to ask me was, I took some time to carefully consider the answer. I didn't mind if his daughter found out about my unique trait. She is my benefactor. I will ensure to express my gratitude to her appropriately once this is all concluded. Indeed, I can sense it. It appears that there are currently 2 copies of One for All. The one in young Midoriya, and the one in me currently. I shared my precise thoughts with him. It appeared to engage his mind in contemplation. I allowed him to immerse himself in his own realm as I embraced Eri and lifted her towards the ceiling, expressing my gratitude in an enthusiastic tone. I couldn't help but feel the desire to go on a patrol. I'm curious if he'll be discharged today. As Eri and Naruto strolled through the hospital, they used their skills to restore patients to full health. The police were questioning a suspect who had sustained minor injuries. An individual with the patches of weathered, textured, violet skin that encompass a significant portion of their exposed physique. He was currently dressed in the standard attire for inmates and wearing handcuffs designed specifically for individuals with fire quirks. It is clear that the individual in question is Dabi, who is believed to be Endeavor's deceased son. Being apprehended was a significant setback for the antagonist. He hadn't even had the opportunity to eliminate a significant number of individuals, as a few hundred seemed insignificant to him. And he hadn't even started engaging in combat with that individual. However, Toya Todoroki did not start off as a bloodthirsty and psychotic villain. He was once a talented child who even inherited his father's determination to surpass all might and become the best. Alternatively, one could argue that it was deeply instilled in him during his formative years. Nevertheless, it had become his aspiration. However, after receiving discouragement from the individual who led him astray. The reason for that was due to his unique condition, specifically his Boda's sensitivity to high temperatures. He was feeling down, to put it mildly. He had endured numerous setbacks in his relentless pursuit of his dream. However, it proved to be futile in the end. His younger brother Shoto awakening his quirk was the final addition to his already overflowing bucket. The young Shoto quickly took Toya's place in his father's eyes, as Endeavor completely disregarded him. Or, at least none that were significant to the now young teenager. His depression and sadness transformed into intense animosity, seemingly overnight. He strongly disliked the mere presence of the individual who had turned him down. The focus and behavior of his father are what caused his mental breakdown and subsequent descent into villainy. The stitched villain began to derive satisfaction from the agony of others, relishing in the sight of people engulfed in flames and screaming in pain. He displayed a cruel and malicious nature. Despite maintaining a professional demeanor, his thoughts are always consumed by a vengeful madness. Even to this day, his sole remorse remains the missed opportunity to personally eliminate Endeavor. He appeared to be searching the area with a sense of frustration and tension. The detective in front of him didn't capture much of his attention. At this moment, his sole focus was on finding a way to break free. Gradually, he began to comprehend something. Despite being unable to escape, he was determined to inflict maximum damage on Endeavor. If he were to share his story with the detective, it wouldn't immediately become widely known to the public. However, he could request a press conference. He can express a similar sentiment. I will give a professional presentation on the motives of the organization that targeted UA. The detective reluctantly accepted. These were the first words uttered by the villain throughout the entire interrogation. Fortunately for Dabi, there were no individuals in the force with the ability to read minds. Or at least no one of that nature was present. The top-notch detectives in the country were currently questioning the injured all for one, within the secure confines of Tardaros. Dabi found himself facing a group of journalists. Securely fastened and seated in a mobile chair. He maintained a professional barrier by placing a screen between himself and the reporters. There were also heroes present, just in case. When Dabi began speaking, it became clear that they were here to uncover the motives behind the attack on the renowned Hero High School. However, when the antagonist began discussing their history with the top-ranked hero, the atmosphere became more negative. It was met with skepticism, as expected. However, numerous methods existed to authenticate the story. Dabi was satisfied with that. He didn't anticipate that individuals would accept his statements without question. On the other hand, Endeavor. He was deeply upset, to put it mildly. Witnessing his late son narrate his heartbreaking past in real time was an unsettling experience. NG had a vague familiarity with the individual on stage. confronted by his own errors, glaring at him with a disdainful expression. It brought back memories of a defeat he believed he had successfully moved on from. The individual in front of the reporters, securely seated in a chair and encircled by law enforcement personnel, happened to be his son. And, following a thorough investigation conducted by a team of experienced agents, the reporters were informed of the truth by none other than Toya Todoroki, the son of Enji Todoroki. Everything aligned perfectly, from the unique quirks and natural hair color, to the striking resemblance to the Todoroki family. There was clear evidence. Now, the only thing remaining was to provide a report on the current situation. There was still no way to determine the veracity of Toya's words. However, the unexpected transformation of the son of the former number 2, from hero to villain, caused quite a stir of controversy. And the news was met with a less than favorable response from the public. Endeavor had already faced criticism for his methods. Now, individuals were intruding into his personal life and uncovering details about his spouse, the arranged marriage, and his parenting methods. As a result of the widespread attention, the authorities were compelled to take action and initiate a formal investigation into this matter. Child abuse was indeed a crime. Enji was overwhelmed with stress. He was unsure of his next steps. His agency was unable to address any crises, as intense scrutiny was focused on anyone who had ever collaborated with him. He never anticipated witnessing one of his sons take on a path of wrongdoing. The rest of his family could only observe as Enji grew increasingly despondent with each passing day. Even Shoto, someone who deeply despised his father, couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for him. However, the main focus of their attention was reconnecting with their estranged sibling. Enji sensed that his tenure as a hero was reaching its conclusion. He was fully aware that there was no escape from this predicament. People were overly focused on this incident, completely disregarding any positive contributions he had made. Unexpectedly, Rei Todoroki paid a visit to their house upon learning about the situation. His children Shoto, Fuyumi, and Natsuo had already reconnected with their mother. Enji consistently made efforts to reconcile with his wife. However, it was insufficient and untimely. Regardless of the number of flowers and apologies he offered, she remained unforgiving. He had come to terms with this realization, prompting him to make a conscious effort to treat his children in a unique manner. It appears that his efforts went somewhat unnoticed. Despite not receiving forgiveness, he found solace in witnessing their reunion. Now, the only thing that was missing was Toya. It appears that they should make an effort to address this matter as a unit. After a long day of helping others, it's no surprise that she was feeling exhausted. Despite her unique ability, she was mentally drained. I just took her back to Rumi's room and let her fall asleep on my shoulder. My wife was already getting ready to leave the hospital. It appears that the physicians no longer need to keep her under watch, they already have enough on their hands. I moved to her side and stared at her for a moment. I enjoyed seeing her ears wiggle around. She had clearly spotted me looking at her like an idiot. She simply stared at me, and she would have yelled at me if Eri hadn't been asleep in my arms. One of the unspoken laws in our family is that no one shouts around Eri. Rumi isn't really furious with me, anyhow. She also appeared excited. I am not the most sensitive person, but I believe skipping over to me is a sign of joy. I simply grabbed her and embraced her a little. Eri was still in my arms. So the best I can do is embrace and kiss. Rumi clung to me like a koala on a eucalyptus tree toward the end. You see, I already have a child in my arms. I don't need another one. I smirked, saying this. It was mostly an inside joke. When she clung to me like Wei, it was for more sinister motives. So when I want to tease her, I always bring up one of her children. I can only afford to do so while Eri is asleep. If she were awake, all conversation of that nature would stop. As this is another unsaid norm in our household. No significant taunting or nasty comments around Eri. This one is holy. As a result of my previous mistake, I needed to educate Eri that some phrases should not be used to strangers. Okay, perhaps Rumi and I are not the most qualified parents. But we adore Eri, and that's all she needs, really. After that, we just went home. The three of us. The following several days were spent quietly. And I even called and scheduled an appointment with the psychiatrist. Things are looking well. I need to make sure Eri is always safe. And Rumi. I need to practice more with her. I can't really teach her anything, but I will make our training sessions more regular than previously. I can't always be present for her during fights. She is a hero, after all. She will constantly get into conflicts. It is simply part of her personality. Sticking too close to her can possibly give the impression that I no longer trust her to protect herself. Something she would undoubtedly see as an insult. Regardless, All for One has been arrested, with little to no prospect of escape. Things are looking pretty darn safe. One may argue that the All for One cannot remain captured. But that's nonsense. The only reason he could try and escape in the manga was because he had Shigaraki. Now, all of his reliable allies have been killed or apprehended. Tardaros ensured that he would be unable to save himself. As much as I distrust Tardaros, it's largely because of his previous misstep. I assume they used a variety of defensive systems this time. I doubt they'd fall for the same oddity twice. Aside from All for One, there are no significant villains to discuss. They have all been captured or killed. I have not seen anything about Himiko Toga, Twice, or Spinner. But they're not exactly folks I should be concerned about. Oh yes. Dabi. I'd forgotten about him for a few days. He appears to have spent his time in prison destroying his father's legacy. The Todoroki family should be shocked by this event. I wonder whether that will be enough to get them to rejoin properly. I've already set the framework. Now all Enji needs to do is let go of his pride and turn over a new leaf. To be honest, ensuring Dabi's capture is the easiest aspect of the entire strategy. Getting his Rei Todoroki out from the hospital was inconvenient to accomplish secretly. I did able to pull some strings, and I used her family's identities to do so. Changing my name to Endeavor and taking care of the legalities. Controlling Light to that level is not too awful. I doubt Endeavor would even investigate that. He should be obsessed with salvaging what remains of his personal life. I believe his hero career is currently on precarious ground. But he should be able to come back. At least I believe so. I doubt he'll have the same drive as previously. After a time, I stopped caring about Endeavor. I'll simply let nature take its course from here on out. I've already tampered with his personal life. I have my own issues to worry about. Like the fact that I have a date with Rumi scheduled for evening. Eri is presently under the care of Recovery Girl. I believe she enjoys spending around with Chio, honestly. She is constantly looking forward to spending time with her. Even going so far as to nickname her Granny Kaio. I think Recovery Girl nearly had a heart attack the first time she heard this. Anyway, I need to prepare for a wonderful evening and a long night. Rumi has had a lot of energy recently. She will want to finish it tonight. The date isn't something I planned. We were asked to a gala by some wealthy individuals. And because we were both bored, we decided to turn it into a date. Neither of us is very interested in the posh party scene. But we believed it didn't matter because we were only here for the meal. Rumi was wearing a white dress. This contrasts wonderfully with her brown skin. I was wearing a navy blue tuxedo suit that I had recently purchased. I wanted to wear the same outfit I wore on my first date with Rumi. But she nearly chewed my head off when she heard it. Saying I should get some additional clothing to wear out with her. Ah well. We were simply sitting at our table, eating and conversing. We didn't even bother saying hello to the person who invited us here because we didn't know who it was. Out of nowhere, a well-presented individual performed the ceremonious act of tapping a champagne glass to capture the attention of the crowd. He spoke a few words that neither I nor Rumi cared to listen to. The date concluded when we both grew disinterested and returned home to engage in leisure activities and, perhaps, rest, although that seems unlikely. The date was successful. Although neither one of us quite grasped the reason behind our invitation to a rather extravagant event. Time passed, stretching from days to weeks, and then from weeks to months. Without realizing it, my inaugural year of high school had come to a close. Several incidents occurred, including Eri reprimanding me for my lack of attention. Her behavior is increasingly resembling that of Rumi with each passing day. A more composed and intimidating rendition of her. I'll start by mentioning that I was quite tired. Alright, so I woke up one morning and attempted to make some pancakes. Rumi was diligently attending to her professional duties, as she woke up before me to embark on an early morning patrol. I inadvertently caused a temporary fire in the kitchen and left the entire area in disarray. Eri observed the entire incident. She concealed it from Rumi using a false pretense. I always make sure to provide her with sweets in a discreet manner, regardless of Rumi's rules. I efficiently cleaned the place and even freshened up the room before Rumi arrived. She remained completely unaware. However, I am unsure of the source of Eri's knowledge in the art of blackmailing, but I must admit that I feel a sense of pride. Upon reflection, she has been spending a significant amount of time engaging with Nisa recently. Perhaps he has been instructing her in matters such as this. Another notable individual is Rumi, who has been steadily improving her skills and has now achieved an impressive 4th place ranking on the leaderboards. I suppose it was inevitable, considering the number of cases she is currently solving is significantly higher than others. She no longer actively monitors this province. This place is avoided by villains at all costs. We both reside in this location, All Might and I. It would be unwise to expect to avoid detection. Discussing All Might brings to mind the numerous news articles that circulated due to his significant rise in media exposure. The symbol of peace regains the spotlight. And the golden age never ends. His impressive return has further strengthened people's reliance on him. However, thanks to his enhanced capabilities, he is now capable of handling all of the responsibility. Regarding my situation, I have somewhat receded from the public eye. I have maintained my position as the second-ranked hero, but my patrols have become infrequent. I am widely recognized as a symbol of justice, often referred to as a powerful and unwavering force in the legal system. My reputation as a shining star is frequently discussed in conversations. I became just as well known as All Might, a true icon. I also earn a substantial income from royalties. We offer a wide variety of merchandise, including figurines, posters, and t-shirts. I have a significant amount of money with no expenses to allocate it towards. These days, I dedicate my time to pursuing my passions. Enjoying the art of manga creation and tending to Eris needs. One Piece has been gaining significant popularity in recent months. People began to appreciate the professional atmosphere and the connections made to the real world. Especially after I gained proficiency in drawing backgrounds. No major studio has chosen to acquire it. However, an increasing number of individuals are tuning in for the weekly release. Given my efficiency, I am able to accommodate such tasks. I have the ability to release content on a daily basis, but I am mindful of not overwhelming my dedicated audience. So I've been spending the majority of my time at home. Rumi may have some choice words for me, but she's actually happy to have more quality time together. Eri is always delighted to have me at home most of the time. I attended school on a regular basis, ensuring my presence 5 days a week. Nisa gave his approval, emphasizing the importance of not neglecting my own classes. Wow, having a boss like him is truly a pleasure. Now, let's shift our focus to another individual who is equally impressive. Hero Endeavor, despite facing challenges, did not retire in the end. It's impressive how he managed to maintain a strong foundation and fanbase, despite initial doubts about his career. The police investigation on him also yielded no results. The Todoroki family declined to provide testimony against him, and the majority of evidence regarding his misconduct has already been concealed in the past. They only have the unfortunate circumstance of his oldest son turning to the dark side. He maintained his heroic status with some assistance from All Might. He asserted that his actions as a protector and a hero should not be diminished by his personal life. I truly don't understand how an individual lacking charisma can effectively captivate an audience. Toshi's actions were perceived by the public as a display of friendship, which garnered sympathy for the situation. Not everything was flawless, it was more of a mixed bag. Many individuals still regarded him as a contemptible individual, which is understandable. He has always strived to improve himself and make progress in his personal life. Based on my observations, it seems that he has been making efforts to improve his family situation. His determination to outshine All Might seems to have faded away. This also brought a sense of cheerfulness to Shoto. It was great to witness his transition from his emo phase to actively engaging in conversations with his classmates. Regarding Dabi, I regret to inform you that he has reached a point where it may be difficult to bring him back. He is absolutely unhinged, no doubt about it. He is presently incarcerated, currently awaiting trial for his alleged offenses. He provided a comprehensive account of all his actions over the past few years. Presumably, as a means of highlighting the unfortunate outcome of Endeavor's son. It's up to him to handle the rest. I doubt Enji's family will ever forgive him, but at least he has become a better person. Regarding All for One. I'm curious about the outcome of a hypothetical battle between him and All Might. Who do you think would come out on top? It's unfortunate that it won't ever happen. They're barely able to keep All for One conscious, as he's heavily medicated and sedated. It's surprising that he hasn't succumbed to the drugs. I suppose they are considering his assortment of idiosyncrasies. It's of no consequence. I believe they have intentions to incorporate All for One in some manner, but it no longer affects me significantly. Even if he manages to escape captivity, regain his lost limbs, and partially recover his lungs. He is aware of the importance of avoiding Japan. He is someone I no longer prioritize after beginning therapy. The psychiatrist advised me to let go of my excessive concerns about someone who is already incarcerated. And, valid point. It is much more convenient to have him captured rather than eliminating him. If I had captured him during our initial encounter, the entire UA attack could have been avoided. It's frustrating to think that he managed to escape once already. Immediately. Toshi and I are observing Class 1A as they complete their end-of-the-year exams. We both need to face a team. Not particularly captivating. Well, today is my final day at work, so I should make an effort to appear engaged. The exams went as anticipated. Observing the students being overwhelmed by pro heroes is always entertaining. All Might did give me a strange glance when I chuckled at my Netta's encounter with Midnight. I also had the opportunity to engage in combat. The team I was up against consisted of Tokoyami and Shinso. The battle was quite one-sided. However, I did allow Shinso to influence my thoughts for a brief period, purely out of curiosity. It seems that physical movement is out of the question for me, but I still have the ability to control the light in my surroundings. I effortlessly maneuvered my own body, guided by the surrounding light. It was very impressive. Shinso's expression was also quite amusing, and I'll definitely tease him about it for the next month. The remainder of the experience was rather uneventful. The students displayed an unexpected level of strength. However, there is still room for improvement, as some individuals may require further training to refine their unique abilities. Similar to Kirishima's inability to develop claws or Bakugo's continued lack of power in his explosions since the start of the year. After completing my work, I returned home and resumed my life as a mangaka. Or I would have, had I not received an unexpected phone call. The message came from a longtime acquaintance. Giran. It had been a while since I last heard from him. Hello. Giran, how are you? I said with a professional demeanor. Giran is actually someone I don't dislike at all. He has consistently provided me with assistance. It could be because of our professional arrangement, but he occasionally updates me on important matters. Remembering my time at the USJ, I couldn't help but appreciate the value of his warning, had I been unaware of it. He discovered the Meta Liberation Army with some delay. Primarily because they didn't recruit villains through conventional means. Instead, they leveraged Trumpet's charisma to attract followers, including extremists. Please refrain from using such an informal greeting. I am extremely disappointed with the impact you have had on my business. I allowed my hand to rest at my side momentarily, patiently awaiting Giran's conclusion of his impassioned outburst. What is the intention behind causing harm to his business? I suppose I'll have to discover it for myself. Have you completed your task? I inquired once he completed his outburst and display of frustration. Yes, I am feeling much improved, he said, with a lingering hint of frustration in his voice. What do you mean I had a negative impact on your business? I can speculate on what occurred, but I don't possess a comprehensive understanding of the entire situation in the underworld. I just heard an exasperated exhale from him. Then he began speaking in a more composed and collected manner. Your actions have gradually driven my customers away from this country. Every major organization has completely shifted away from Japan. Well, that outcome was predictable. My impressive track record of eliminating over 13,000 villains certainly didn't instill a sense of security among their counterparts. I didn't receive any significant consequences, apart from being fined. It was quite affordable. I expected to receive a prison sentence, at the very least. But oh well. I have no complaints about it. Regarding the remaining villains, they were largely apprehended. All that remains are a few brokers like myself, diligently searching for contracts and lucrative opportunities. Many people also departed the country. Giran was feeling quite frustrated. I suppose I did have an impact on his business, technically speaking. Am I truly responsible for such a significant shift in the criminal underworld? I inquired, as a precaution. All Might has returned to his prime, perhaps indicating his involvement in the matter. What underworld? Everyone in Japan who is worth mentioning has left. The only ones remaining are a few drug lords who shudder in their boots at every step they make. Giran spoke in a mournful tone. Naruto, there is no underworld in Japan anymore, no black market left to speak of, nothing. Well. That's really great. I don't mind, certainly. But I feel awful for Giran. He's virtually lost everything he's worked hard to create over the years. I suppose I can lend a helpful hand. Well, I won't apologize. But I am willing to fund another enterprise for you. I spoke with my customary tone. What kind of venture could that be? I don't feel like leaving the country. He sounded fascinated, but also distraught. Have you ever considered starting a legal business? Before you start laughing, I think you could do it rather simply. And what kind of business would I start? I'm still a wanted villain, and I don't want to work with the cops. I can also give you a clean slate. It's not that difficult. All I have to do is inform the cops that you were always working as an informant for me. He hesitated when I said that. As if he were pondering my offer. Fine. Simply do your thing. I will think of a business endeavor and repay your original payment at some time. Finally, he accepted. He doesn't much care about the law, but he does enjoy money. I assume we'll stay in touch. Maybe we can play some poker again. I learned a couple new tricks that I'd want to attempt. Ah well. We have ample time to think about it. Getting rid of his criminal record isn't difficult. My strategy. Just tell Nizu everything, including what Giran has done for me, and he will do it in a heartbeat. Okay, not everything. However, this changed account of events will make Giran appear to be a rehabilitated guy concerned with more than simply money. However, Nizu notices that not much has changed. And, look at that. Nizu didn't believe the full narrative, but he agreed to aid Giran. I went him to speak with the police chief about this occurrence. My strategy succeeded for the most part. Giran will be kept under observation for some time, but his role as a double agent for me has been acknowledged as reality. However, when Nizu and the police chief learned that the underworld was departing, they became quite excited. According to their comments, Japan will become a safer sanctuary than other countries. Crime will still occur. However, all criminal groups are no longer active. Petty and deranged criminals are far simpler to deal with than seasoned criminals that operate in gangs. Wait, does this imply I could have cost some heroes their jobs? Oh well, they should thank me anyhow. As the police chief did. All that is left is to enjoy the summer and go to the beach. I'm probably going to invite all of my buddies. Even if I don't feel at ease in the sea, I can still appreciate the scenery. For example, the ocean's waves crash against the coastline and the stones. The youngsters are creating sandcastles. Oh, and Rumi is wearing a bikini. Each of these views serves as an excellent incentive. Especially the final one. I've recently completed a whole year. It was so sluggish that it seemed like a lifetime. Nothing exciting is occurring anymore. When you're bored, time seems to move very slowly. It's even worse when you're bored at high speeds. There isn't much occurring on the streets anymore. However, the hero vocation remains highly sought after. Mostly because some individuals continue to become villains. It appears that some folks are simply foolish. Who would have thought? I simply did my thing for the full year. Nothing much, but I made sure to instruct the kids at UA. I occasionally go for coffee with the erstwhile Big Three. I've recently spent most of my time with Naijiro, Shinso, Toru, and Mina. I also like to have them over to my place and have them take care of Eri while I do other things. I enjoy concealing this as a house meeting. Nobody seems to bother when I go get some soda and relax in the Bahamas for half an hour. Rumi seemed to be pretty pleased. However, I can sense she is bothered by something. And I understand precisely what it is and how to correct it. I'll do it later this week, though. I don't feel like picking rings right now. On a more upbeat note. All for One was recently executed, but it was kept quiet. But I was still told before it occurred. It was done by fatal injection. What a beautiful and kind approach to dismiss someone like him. I would respond, to put down a dog like him, but my therapist advised me to quit degrading people. Even if they are true trash who deserve nothing but death. He was kept alive so that he might testify against some of his buddies. He had a big network of supporters. However, no one seemed to be able to get him out of jail. He is no longer with us. I honestly do not care. I am not even thrilled about it. He's grown so far away from being an issue for me that it no longer matters. Rumi seemed mad. She really wanted to fight him. She seemed to accept it when I told her I deactivated him during the attack. I kind of forgot to tell her about it. It wasn't that I kept it a secret, it just never came up. Okay, anything. Rumi can challenge me if she wants a difficult opponent. And she does. We have been battling every day for some months now. I don't care much about fighting anymore, but spending time with her is always nice. I have almost fully stopped doing hero work. I still show up from time to time. Just to show everyone that I wasn't dead. But as I am now. I preserve my position as number 2. All Might stays number 1. I believe he will continue to be a symbol of peace for at least another few dozen years. I'm not concerned about the rating anymore. I have friends. I've got a girlfriend. I even have a daughter. My therapist suggested that I learn to be content with what I had. I've always thought I was, but maybe I just took things for granted. Consider Rumi's thoughts, for example. I've always tried to reciprocate, but I've lately recognized that it's time to take it up. Also, like I indicated, buying rings is not a very pleasant process. Finding out her size was not difficult. But, when it comes to choosing a ring, I have to consider Rumi's personality. She isn't the type of lady who wears jewelry. I suppose a ruby would be perfect for her. But I might need another opinion on this. So, I approached my coworkers. The first person I asked was Midnight. It was a huge mistake. Her scream appeared to shatter the glass of the office room we were in. It notified every other instructor. She chased them away. But they could all see something was awry. I just hope she can keep her mouth shut for a couple more days. And, as for her suggestion, I prefer not to wear a ring. So I went to the person I should have contacted in the first place. 13. The conversation went something like this. Hello, 13. So, do you know anything about engagement rings? She just stared at me like I was an idiot or something. Is this what Midnight was talking about? Why, in the name of everything that is holy, would you ask her that? Yes, there it is. The scolding. After discussing me and my relationship with Rumi, she felt that the ideal ring would be quite basic. Not an excessive amount of rock attached to a moderately priced metal. Something we can agree on. Rumi, in my opinion, should be free to wear whatever is most comfortable while performing her heroic duties. She ultimately recommended a few jewelry stores both within and outside of the country. I did not ask her how she knew so many of them. However, I needed to view all of them before making a decision. You had better hurry. I doubt Namuri can keep such a secret for long. That was the last thing she uttered after returning to her previous activity before I interrupted her. I merely nodded my head and left. I had various places to visit. I also need to plan my proposal. I'm not sure if I should go all out or keep it basic. I might need to ask another acquaintance for assistance with this one. I put on a superb disguise while hunting for rings. If journalists saw me stroll into a jewelry store and ask about engagement rings, they'd write an article before I even left, which would take about seconds. Finally, I chose a basic silver ring with a little ruby on it. It was in no way expensive. I could have afforded to buy the entire company brag, but I doubt Rumi would want anything so expensive. Unless they have brass knuckles or anything like. I believe she received a pair of electric gloves at some time. I'm not sure where she got them, but she continued to harass me with them. I usually enjoy a little light-hearted mocking, but not when it's electrical. Regardless, I've got the ring. Now I only need to prepare a proposal. Preparing for my proposal took some time. It's been a long since I've planned something this completely. However, I didn't start planning it until yesterday. I've planned for this development. I had booked this on a specific date. However, utilizing it to make a proposal appears to be rather possible. I still needed to get help from a good friend of mine. His performance will decide whether or not the approach is successful. I have no doubt he will. And now, take Rumi out of the home. I enter the living room, where Eri and Rumi are watching TV. Eri will join me and Rumi to town. I just believe she should be involved in it. I also did not want to take her to Chio at such short notice. It would be impolite, but she wouldn't mind spending more time with Eri. Rumi and Eri. We are going out. I spoke confidently. Both of them simply gazed at me for a moment. They glanced at each other. Rumi ultimately made the decision to express themselves. What is your request? Excellent, already feeling a warm reception. It seems like they are watching Rumi's preferred cartoon. I have a well-organized day planned for us, I said with a professional demeanor. Sounds uninteresting, remarked Eri, as she shifted her attention back to the television. Oh no, I need to present this property to them. I must succeed on the initial stage of my plan. Let's go. I have a particular amusement park in mind. There will definitely be treats available. Eri's eyes sparkled with excitement, while Rumi gave me a disapproving glare. Before she started reprimanding me, I kept talking. Eri's attention is already captured, now I just need to persuade Rumi. They will also have Karo. Before I even finished, she reacted with frustration, face-palming and letting out a sigh. Wow, is it that time again? Okay, well, proceed with your request. It seems that you are lacking confidence. Furthermore, it seems evident that you have ulterior motives. Alright, they'll disregard the previous section. I am already aware of the cause behind her recent decline in mood. She may be upset with me for not having proposed to her yet. Admittedly, I did delay this task for a while. I deeply regret my actions. She has been displaying signs of irritability for a few months now. Initially, it wasn't immediately apparent, primarily due to her tendency to portray anger. However, it became evident that something was amiss a few weeks ago. She occasionally began to disregard me, which is an unusual method of seeking attention, but I can somewhat comprehend it. She hasn't dropped any clear hints in conversations, although she would occasionally tap her ring finger on the dinner table right in front of me. It's rather unfortunate that I didn't notice it earlier. That's fantastic. Alright, let's get started. I can take care of the transportation for us, I said with enthusiasm. Eri was the only one who met the criteria. Rumi would likely be enthusiastic if she were aware of my upcoming plans. I patiently waited for the two of them to get ready for an outing. Eri was dressed in a stylish outfit, complete with a dress and a vibrant pair of yellow boots. And Rumi opted for a more laid-back look, pairing her jeans with a casual t-shirt. I enveloped everyone in a radiant glow and took to the skies, transporting us to our destination. Eri appeared to be thoroughly enjoying the ride. However, Rumi was still quite frustrated. Eventually, we arrived at an amusement park that appeared quite impressive. The location was nestled amidst the majestic mountains. What questionable location did you bring us to? Rumi inquired, surveying the forest behind her. Rumi was the sole individual who found the location to be bothersome. As Eri enthusiastically leaped and bounded, it felt as if she had a vast playground all to herself. There were no other individuals present except for the staff members. They were happily smiling and expertly preparing fast food or sweets at their stands. Others were operating the attractions. The amusement park appeared to be bustling despite the lack of visitors. I am the individual who made the decision to invest in and construct this establishment. It's more of a private retreat. I wanted to utilize it for a date with Rumi and perhaps a few outings with friends and family. However, now it is the ideal location for this. We explored the area for a while. Rumi found herself thoroughly enjoying the moment, as Eri's joy proved to be incredibly infectious. Perhaps the lack of people in this location also contributes to her enjoyment. I question whether she would derive the same level of enjoyment if this location was filled with a large number of people and bustling with visitors. As the day wore on, the peaceful silence was suddenly shattered by a loud cry. The next phase of my plan was set to begin. "It is me." We all heard a loud voice coming from the side. An individual wearing a sleek black latex suit, complete with a matching cape, gracefully descended upon the scene. His attire did not effectively conceal his muscles, and he was roughly the same height as me. A formidable antagonist. He was dressed in a hood and a purple wig. It was nearly knocked over by the force of his entrance. Additionally, his hoodie featured two noticeable yellow tufts of hair protruding from it. "Rest assured, everyone. I will apprehend this dangerous criminal," I declared, confidently moving closer. "Wow. It's Mr. Toshinori." Eri beamed with joy. Rumi glanced at us, gently massaging her forehead. "What on earth are you two doing?" That was the extent of her response. "Watch your language," said the despicable villain. Truly, he completely spoiled it with his terrible disguise. "Toshi, come on. You lack the necessary skills for acting." He gave me a stern glare. "What would you like me to do? I am too well known," Toshi said, gesturing towards me. By now, his hood had already been lowered. It's likely that his wig was swept away by the wind or some other force. "This was meant to be your time to shine. Why didn't you dress appropriately? What kind of villain would don a latex suit and cape?" I stated, pausing momentarily. "Please refrain from answering the previous question." "Mommy, what's the reason behind Daddy and All Might's conflict?" Eri inquired from the background. "Oh, it's because they lack understanding, dear." Rumi had a radiant smile while saying that. It seems that she takes pleasure in witnessing my plans crumbling around me. Eri simply nodded, appearing innocent. "Toshi. We can discuss this at a more appropriate time." He simply nodded slightly and cleared his throat in his hand. I finally took a look at Rumi. Well, now that my plan is completely derailed, I believe it would be more appropriate to openly reveal my intentions and explain the purpose behind this entire endeavor. "You should. I don't appreciate you wasting my valuable time. If the park wasn't enjoyable, I would have already confronted you." Rumi spoke in a straightforward manner. Eri observed the situation, feeling a bit perplexed. Well, I had planned to create a scenario where we could collaborate and work together. I was quite surprised by the turn of events. Engaging in physical combat has always served as a means of connection for us, even though I have lost interest in it. However, it continues to hold significance for Rumi. I required an individual with exceptional skills to engage in a lengthy battle alongside Rumi, allowing them to unleash their full potential. Toshi is the sole individual on that list, and his performance in situations like these is less than satisfactory. I can't entirely blame him. I should have enhanced the lighting around him to create a more impressive costume, but unfortunately, it's too late for that now. This situation is beyond salvageable, even with Eris quirk. Rumi studied me briefly, showing no aversion to the idea of engaging in a respectable battle alongside me. I let out a deep breath. There's no need to prolong this any further. I had planned to do this towards the conclusion of the battle. I knelt down, bringing myself to her eye level. Surprise filled her eyes. She swiftly moved her hands to conceal the smile on her face. A tiny case materialized in the palm of my hand. It effortlessly opened up, as if guided by an unseen force. "Rumi, would you consider entering into a lifelong commitment with me?" It was a subpar effort. However, Rumi appeared indifferent to all of that. Her eyes welled up with tears as she gazed at the elegant and exquisite pair of rings before her. Eri displayed some initial confusion, but eventually grasped the situation. As an adorable squeal escaped her lips. Toshi, my trusted companion, whom I will forever hold responsible for the downfall of my scheme, beamed with joy as he observed the unfolding spectacle. Finally. "You silly fool, what took you so long?" She had tears streaming down her face as she gestured towards me. I was patiently awaiting the opportune time. However, witnessing your pain was truly distressing. Therefore, I have made the decision to move forward, I remarked, with a radiant smile lighting up my face. Even without utilizing my devil fruit power, I rose to my feet with care and placed the ring on her finger, as she placed the other on mine. It was a delightful moment, with both of our hands trembling slightly from the excitement. After that, we shared a passionate embrace. Eri was laughing joyfully at this point, and Toshi averted his gaze slightly. The staff efficiently carried out my instructions from yesterday. The plan didn't go as expected, but they immediately began celebrating with flowers and confetti. It was a vibrant downpour. Eri began spinning around in them, while Toshi tilted his head slightly. Even after we finished kissing, she continued to hold my hand. We approached Eri and embraced her simultaneously. Following that, we temporarily went our separate ways. I observed Toshi and Rumi exchanging a few words while Eri held onto Rumi's hand. I gave my wingman a congratulatory pat on the back. "Thank you for your assistance today, despite the plan's failure." "No problem, my apologies for that," he said, avoiding direct eye contact. His voice had a more subdued tone. Toshi was always reserved in his leisure hours. There's no need to worry or stress about it any longer. Everything was resolved in the end. I spoke confidently and calmly. He let out a small sigh. "Next item on the agenda is finding you a partner. I would prefer not to see you alone at my wedding," I stated. He appeared to be somewhat frustrated. "You know, I might consider it. There are very few wrongdoers remaining on the streets to engage my attention." His voice exuded a newfound sense of assurance. "I may be experienced, but I still have a chance." He examined his hand and tightened his grip slightly. "Don't stress about that. I can also be your wingman," I stated firmly. Toshi appeared to have perspiration on his brow. "The future is looking promising," I remarked, gazing at the setting sun. "Yeah," Toshi remarked, as he finally allowed himself to unwind a little. We observed it for a brief moment. "Just a reminder, there is still a payment due for the tiles that were damaged during your landing." What? Time flew by. I aged more and more. I am presently 32 years old. There seems to be a lack of activity in Japan these days. Villains are virtually non-existent in this location. The news of Japan's remarkably low crime rate excluding minor offenses and other incidents quickly spread worldwide. It significantly increased the number of migrants. It briefly touched upon the subject of villainy. All Might swiftly dealt with any individuals engaging in misconduct. The field of heroism has become largely obsolete at this stage. There are individuals who specialize in assisting during times of crisis. The rest are not quite up to professional standards. Many individuals relocated to different countries to pursue their desired careers. It wasn't all that bad. Regarding other events that occurred in this area, Midoriya ultimately became All Might's sidekick. He's quite formidable now. And Toshi, despite being in his mid-50s, continues to excel as a symbol and maintains a level of health and energy that rivals my own. Bakugo relocated to China. He achieved great success and became the top hero in that place. He effortlessly surpassed the heroes in that situation. His dramatic arrival gained him significant recognition on a global scale. But not as well known as Toshi and I. We are widely recognized as experts in our field. Oh, I recall being summoned to handle a case in the USA. There was still someone running around with a copy of All for One. I assume he left Japan following the incident I caused 10 years ago. I flew there and efficiently apprehended him, capturing him in less than a second. Despite my power remaining stagnant all this time, Northwest One comes close to matching Maine. Midoriya may have some skills, but he still has a long way to go before reaching my level of expertise. It's fortunate that I decided to move on from fighting, as a life centered around it would have been quite dull. I only engage in sparring when Rumi requests it or when it is absolutely necessary. However, when it comes to Rumi, our wedding was truly remarkable. The wedding took place outdoors. It began to rain halfway through, causing me to disperse the clouds a little. They eventually returned, but sometimes I wonder if that storm-controlling villain was just messing with me. However, it was a successful outcome. Toshi and I took turns blowing the clouds away. Giran arrived with gifts in hand. Despite receiving some disapproving looks, everything was fine. Toshi remained my best man. Primarily because he was available. And Giran strongly dislikes wearing formal attire. Naijuru and Shinso were also there, although they were not particularly comfortable with public speaking. They were not a satisfactory choice. In addition to them, Cementos and Aizawa. They simply chose not to. It is suggested that the role should be given to Toshi. I received the identical response from Lunch Rush. I hired a skilled individual to cater the wedding, although it did come at a significant cost. And I couldn't really request Toru to be my best man. Despite my efforts, I ended up getting punched. Surprisingly, I didn't anticipate that. Bakugo failed to make an appearance, while Izuku continues to struggle with his speech, even after all this time. Mirio and Tamaki were present as well. Mirio was extremely enthusiastic about this entire endeavor. Tamaki was simply being his usual self, displaying his shy and quiet nature. It's impressive how Nijire made the effort to fly all the way from France just to congratulate me and Rumi. Offer a hearty congratulations, to be more precise. Oh well. Well, at least it was enjoyable. My wedding was the initial occasion where I had the pleasure of meeting Rumi's family. And they were very professional in their approach. Not excessively praising my popularity or seeking reasons to dislike me. They were ordinary individuals, which is quite refreshing to witness in today's world. They appeared to be very pleasant. It's quite intriguing to ponder where Rumi inherited her fiery temperament. I won't mention that to her directly, of course. I now have a dedicated and enthusiastic group of supporters. It's quite bothersome. I am no longer able to purchase groceries in Japan. I would prefer to go to America instead. Not significantly improved, but it functions adequately. I struggle to understand how Toshi manages his celebrity status. I successfully helped him find a romantic partner. Despite not having tied the knot yet. Rumi and I currently reside in a significantly larger residence. A villa, indeed. However, with our family of 6 children, every room in our home is put to good use. Regarding the process of how we arrived at this number, it seems that things may have become somewhat chaotic at some stage. Eri didn't have any issues with the siblings, though. She relocated to America to pursue her college education there. She also expressed her aspiration to become a hero in that field. Which was only accepted because I can conveniently visit her daily anyway. Rumi occasionally pays her a visit as well. Occasionally opting to spend a weekend with Eri. Leaving me responsible for the children. Our youngest child is approximately 3 years old. Regarding the remaining matters, they have a range of ages. The most senior individual is 14 years old. A defiant child indeed. Many of them have quirks related to rabbits. There are only 2 individuals who possess a certain ability to manipulate light. However, they are all quite delightful. What's even more frustrating is that all of them aspire to emulate me and pursue a heroic path. Why don't they aspire to become mangakas? It's a highly secure line of work. Oh well, I have no reason to complain. They are pursuing their aspirations. Something that I appreciate witnessing. Returning to the subject of manga, specifically One Piece. I significantly reduced its speed once it gained popularity. There is currently an ongoing adaptation as well. So I left it off with Luffy facing off against Big Mom. I'm still contemplating the most appropriate way to conclude. However, I do have some availability in my schedule. No one seems to be in a hurry. The Todoroki family relocated to the United States. Dabi remains incarcerated, serving a life sentence as per his conviction. However, the family managed to remain united in the end. It appears that Endeavor is currently working on repairing his relationship with his wife. However, he has primarily been perceived as the black sheep of the family. And that appeared to satisfy him. He has decided to leave his hero business behind and pursue a career as a baker. An experienced baker. I would find it amusing to see his reaction. However, he is known for creating exceptional work. His spouse also assists him with that. Shoto made the decision to pursue a career as a hero. He is currently ranked as the top performer in the United States. Wow, I'm curious to know the number of highly skilled individuals who were present at UA during that particular year. Kirishima is currently in Australia, bravely battling against both villains and the dangerous kangaroos that roam the land. He is still with Mina. They are extremely close. Toru frequently accompanies the two of them. I'm curious, does he? I understand why he might feel that way. I occasionally organize gatherings for everyone, including both the former Class 1B and 1A. We typically engage in casual conversations and enjoy socializing. And suddenly, it happened. I maintain strong connections with my friends through frequent travel. Fortunately, I remain the swiftest entity in existence. Traveling is quite efficient and doesn't require much time or energy. Dad. Where did you place the Golden Age costume? Exclaimed my eldest child. It appears that my children haven't inherited many traits from me, except for their height. My eldest, Yumida, is already 1.8 meters tall. And he has room for further development. He didn't experience the same early growth spurt that I did. Please take a moment to examine the contents of the closet. I raised my voice in response to him. Communication in this household is consistently conducted in a professional manner. Regarding the Golden Age costume, it pertains to my hero attire. Even though it may be too large for him, he likely wants to impress his friends by displaying it. He possesses a quirk that allows him to manipulate light. He possesses the ability to shoot out lasers, much like I once did. However, he can be hit unlike I was able to. I never anticipated that my unique trait would be inherited through genetics. Primarily because it was initially a devil fruit. However, it seems that it was necessary for it to be genetic in order to align with the definition of a quirk. None of my children have inherited it yet, but that could change in the future. I am no longer as attractive as I used to be, never was, buddy. However, I still maintain a polished appearance. Fortunately, I still have a full head of hair. My eyes always appear fatigued. Undoubtedly, this appears to be a genetic trait of some sort. Yumida has caught my attention as well. I occasionally considered plastic surgery. However, that simply appears to lack depth. I am already cherished by Rumi, what more could I ask for? I dedicate a significant amount of my spare time to spending quality moments with Rumi and our children. I still have that amusement park, and we visit it regularly. I also allowed Toshi to bring his girlfriend along. By the way, Izuka's mom is. Wow, that was quite unexpected. I had no idea that Izuka's father had left them. However, I suppose I never truly prioritized discovering the answer. It's a bit disappointing that I couldn't witness Izuka's initial reaction to this. I can assure you that he didn't mind at all. However, the unexpected surprise likely caused him to doze off, at the very least. Well, it seems that Shoto's prediction was somewhat accurate. Izuku may not be biologically related to All Might, but he is considered his stepson. Despite Toshi and Inko not being married yet. They are already in their 50s. It seems like they will be sticking with their current partners for the foreseeable future. Aside from that, life is simply tranquil. I no longer have a use for my costume. However, I am still seen as a symbol. I am committed to maintaining a high level of professionalism for the rest of my life. Not that I have any objections. I have a wide circle of friends and a large extended family. What more could one desire in life? The end.
With that, this video comes to a close. I want to thank you for taking the time to see this video. Leave a like, subscribe, and watch the following video if you liked this one.